Hello, and welcome back to Level 1 News. Today is February 16th, and we are doing, government and social media? Because we have a lot of meta stories.
And as always, the Level 1 News for all of 2022 is brought to you by Linode, because Linode is awesome. They're Linux hosting and block storage and database hosting, and they're adding new features all the time. They have in mind they want to take over the world of hosting. So thank you, Linode, and you should check that out. There's a $100 link below. Our Minecraft server and some other stuff is hosted with Linode. We did a really awesome Devember project that we just did a video on the... You could see all the people that did all the work for last year's Devember. We finally got the judging done. Check that out. So it's good stuff. Thanks, Linode.
And Microsoft, they're a Linode competitor.
Much but notable larger. In the tech space.
Azure, Linode.
They don't compete too directly, I guess. But hey, if you hate Azure, maybe try Linode. The problem with Microsoft is that some may accuse them of being disingenuous. And maybe they're trying to get something else in return for giving us a little freedom in our gaming.
Microsoft proclaims support for a more open gaming future.
We got to get the FTC off our ass.
Why would they do such a thing? What could motivate them? Perhaps they want something else. Perhaps the government is kind of breathing down their throat about some things.
Yeah, and they also want this whole Epic thing, or not Epic thing. They also want this whole Activision thing to go through, so, you know.
So, yeah, this is all about the App Store stuff. Obviously, it's a big fight. And the big thing, though, is that Microsoft wants to merge. And so far, mergers in 2022, not happening. So it kind of feels like they're trying to be like, we'll give you the App Store. You let us merge all we want. Sure, there's probably some bags of cash in there somewhere too, right?
You think maybe it's because Microsoft is figuring out that their App Store is a hot dumpster fire and people already sideload applications on PCs, so what are you going to do?
You think it took them this long to figure that out?
Yeah, I do. See, they polluted their analytics. You know, the start menu just makes it look like some analytics dashboard, like people really like all the nonsense features of the start menu, but really they're just lying to themselves.
It's way worse in Windows 11, isn't it?
It's way worse. It's what happened, and you've been on these calls, we sit down, it's like, well, our metrics show really good user engagement. It's like, because you haven't given the users a choice. The users are suffering under your decisions.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, you could probably have a lot more users if you didn't drive them away by these weird decisions before they even log in.
Our Bing numbers are amazing. That's because when you click start, you get like 5 Bing searches immediately. That's not organic. That's just lies.
It's just slow, too. Like, the start menu feels so sluggish now.
Yeah, it's bad. Sorry.
Yeah, unrelated.
Anyway.
What's related? The one thing that's happening right now is shakeup in the stock market. Markets are not too happy. It might be on account of the crazy, record-breaking inflation.
We're LARPing the Great Depression now, boys.
And so that causes the top 10 to scramble around constantly. Who's number 1? Who's number 2? Well, we know who's number 7 now, and it's not Facebook/Meta anymore.
It's official. Nvidia is now worth more than Meta. Probably didn't help that they lost $250 billion in valuation in one day.
And it doesn't help that Nvidia has the hottest product in the world right now.
It's hard to even compare them because Nvidia makes like an actual physical good.
Now, I just want to ask, just want to throw this out there. How is Facebook substantially different, other than the spying apparatus and all of the other stuff? Ignore that. How is Facebook substantially different than GeoCities of yore, other than scale?
It's worse than GeoCities because at least with GeoCities you could control the look and the layout of your page and like.
But I don't think
think of all the dancing GIFs you could have.
I don't think maybe this goes to the scale, I guess. But 1 in 6 people on Earth weren't on GeoCities.
But they probably would be now if GeoCities was a thing, or LiveJournal perhaps. Can you
Angel
imagine,
Fire?
Can you imagine LiveJournal with billions of users?
It was popular when I was in middle school. Everyone had a LiveJournal.
But also, during this time, like back in those days, no one looked to websites for their news.
Yeah.
And now, Facebook controls the narrative. That's the real power.
I kind of miss the Wild West days of the web where like you would look up some obscure thing for like writing a paper or something and it was just Bob's GeoCities site that is only about the American West from this period, like 1800 to 1801.
So the technological component of Facebook is not unlike the nails and screws in the old newspaper building.
And Bob was an amazing resource on the American West. And you're writing your paper and you're like, wow, Bob's a really wealth of information. I wonder if everybody else knows about him. And then like page 7, as you're clicking through, you find out he hates Native Americans.
Oh, I thought,
Yeah, it gets real weird all of a sudden. Or it's like, sign my guest book for more.
I thought you were going to say that he was into puppy play.
Oh.
We cannot talk about that. You know we can't talk
We've
about
got
that.
we've got a list of stuff to talk about for the Too Hot for YouTube, but we
working
have
on
not
that.
done that podcast yet.
Yeah.
We haven't done any podcast this year, and we apologize for
Yeah.
that. That's why we're going to make it up to you with a Patreon/Floatplane exclusive Too Hot for YouTube broadcast coming soon.
There's a
trademark.
large list of
Very
topics for
large
And
that.
oh, is it going to piss a lot of you off?
Sorry.
When I was putting those stories together, I was like, oh, they're going to hate this. They're going to hate this.
I added a few.
Yeah, I think that'll, we
Mine
should
are more just
balance it
general
out.
anxiety stories, but
Well, you know who's not having general anxiety? It's RISC-V, because oh boy, are they the prettiest girl at the prom now, right?
They really are.
Now that ARM is off the table, this is starting to look a lot better.
Intel invests in open source RISC-V processors and creates $1 billion fund. So Intel sees its future with RISC-V. And Nvidia's future is probably also with RISC-V. Spoiler alert, RISC-V is kind of already there in some RISC products, or in some Nvidia products.
Now this is a little bit crazy because Intel right now doesn't have a ton of control here. Whether or not they change that in the future, that's definitely up in the air.
They probably can't by the mechanism, or at least it would be damaging to the image that RISC-V is trying to portray if there were any hints of that in this deal.
How many bags of cash do you think it would take to overcome that hesitation?
Intel would just have to buy everything outright for an astronomical amount of money. And they have the money. They could.
Well, I don't think the governments would let them.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that's another reason why they're doing this, is because they're like, well, we can't really merge right now, so let's do the next best thing to have somebody else. We can't steal your work by buying it, so we'll steal your work by partnering with you.
I wonder if I wonder what Dr. Cuttress's thoughts are on this, because on the one hand, I could see that is this Intel leaning on their fab? So like they're not going to have the intellectual property. It's going to be RISC-V, but they're going to have the fabs, and they're going to own the fabs, and that's where they're going to make all their money. I don't know. Maybe. Seems that's weird because that's not what everybody else is doing. But we've had a little bit of a turnaround here with the shortages in 2022. Yeah. All of a sudden, if you own a fab, you have a license to print money. And that wasn't really exactly the case 5 years ago.
But you also have to consider, if you own a fab and we're at war with China,
suddenly that's worth at least 10 times as much.
More than that, I'd say. And things being worth more is certainly the trend in 2022, isn't it? Everything except, I don't know, the US dollar.
I love this article for two reasons.
Which is why, as the price of everything skyrockets, the one thing that doesn't seem to be growing is wages. But at some point, you have to.
Amazon raises the base salary cap to $350,000 for corporate and tech workers. The previous base was $160,000, so it's not quite a doubling, although I read one report that said that this was there was a little bit more, so I think they were including some benefits. The benefits package changed a little bit, and maybe it's not included in that figure. But this is awesome, because I'm going to send this article to people because I need to raise rates on things. We'll see how that goes.
the clients always whine about that.
Yeah.
Well, you could just send them, a price list from the grocery store. It's like, listen, we eat.
Yeah, it's like we're not being greedy here, but I do like to eat a steak every now and then. So
I just like to eat in general.
Which is weird because you rarely eat very much.
I brought, so I don't know if probably no one's heard it, but like sometimes my stomach grumbles I brought food this time, so that way my stomach would not grumble as much.
Every time I eat one of those, people are like, "Please no ASMR news."
Yeah, I try not to take a bite.
I'm one of those people, by the way. There's no excuse for that.
I took a bite of the apple last episode and I was like, "Whoops."
Oops.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, RISC-V might be the future for Intel, but Mac has gone a different direction, and oh boy, have they been successful at this. They're going to roll them out for everything.
Every M1 Mac is due for a 2022 refresh with a faster M2 chip and new designs. So this is going to be the make or break thing for Apple, I think. So from x86 to the M1, it was a really impressive showing. Like, the software and the hardware are working together in a way that may be the future of how we do computers, because right now the software people and the hardware people are kind of yelling at one another, and they don't really, it's not great. A lot of the magic of the M1 was that those things were actually working really well together, I think. So the M1 refresh, kind of disappointing in my opinion. So if the M2 is not at least 10-15% better with comparable or only slightly worse power envelopes, then I think that's it's got to be at least that good. Otherwise, this was probably not a good move on Apple's part. If they can't move the needle significantly from generation to generation, the product is going to stagnate, and other competitors will overtake them.
Do you think they care about that, though? I mean, they kind of sell on the name, right?
Eventually, they'll have to care.
They'll have to care, but do they care right now?
Probably about 3 generations.
During this time window, do they really have to worry about that competition because of the chips?
No, the second generation product, and for what you're saying, is totally fine. But like the M3, M4, that's when things start to fall apart.
Oh, well, they got a whole nother generation to work with.
That's like 5 CEOs from now.
Nah, I think Cook is there for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that if this isn't good, I think he'll just retire. He'll just be like, I get too old. I'm going to get out.
They're always just looking for like next quarter, right? I don't think they look very far in the future.
I think that personality desperately needs whatever it is he gets from that.
He can't be happy with hundreds and hundreds of millions. With his $500 million bonus, he can't be happy with that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, those kind of people, they never have enough, right?
I mean, if you can't be happy with 100 million, you're going to be happy with 500 million?
Yeah.
It never ends for those people. And the other thing that never ends, if he has his way, is your employment with Apple. Because he does not like it when you go to work someplace else so much that he tries to take one last little jab at you.
Every employee who leaves Apple becomes an associate. That's a problem for a job database. So when somebody tries to verify your employment, it's like, were you the director of blah, blah, blah? It's like, no, the database says you were an associate. It's not great. But also, why do we have a database of these things?
Apple has a database for everything.
No, I mean just like job employment. It's like, I'm going to go get a job somewhere else. And it's like, let's check your employment history database. And it's like, it's a little dark. Surprised California hasn't outlawed that.
Couldn't you just call like their manager or something and confirm it? Like
they weren't. That's Apple's internal database. Like you go for another job and you fill out and you said I did this at Apple. They're going to call and check your.
There are third parties that call and check that also, and then it goes into their database as associate as well.
Yeah. Wow. It's almost like everybody having a database just compounds the risk.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This was a bad sort. I should have put this over with the other one because it's all about more.
Let's do the Carson thing. Proposing an alternative headline. Some evidence suggests the inflation rate last year was at least 17%.
That's not how Carson did it. You trying to do the mind reading thing?
A soap, a rope, and a dope. Yeah. Amazon increases the price of Prime nearly 17% to $139 per year.
And I'll pay it. Damn you, Bezos, I'll pay it.
I want to get rid of mine, but my husband's like, oh, we use it.
Yeah, you're still going to save money, which is disgusting.
We will not be getting rid of that because, oh my God.
There's some things, and this is frustrating to me because I do try to buy things locally when I can, but like there's some stuff you just can't get locally. Like mustard seeds. I had to order those because no place near us sold them.
There is a surprising amount of brokenness in local commerce. In the sense that it's like, I'm sure that other local people want this.
Yeah, but they've had a decade to whittle away at that.
Yeah, exactly. They're a monopoly.
So you might have been able to get mustard seed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
I mean, it was a little niche. It's a niche example. But something else I needed recently was like big metal pans to boil syrup in. And couldn't find any nearby. Would have had to drive to a bigger city.
That's the other thing that I don't... around here, a lot of stuff, like if you're buying a house or you're doing stuff... like the doors and things might have been made by a local craftsman for a reasonable fee. And it's like, oh, everything's a little different. And now it's like, oh, we've got the Lowe's standard issue number 4 doors in this house.
Amazon Basic.
Yeah.
Well, get ready for an NFT block. Oh, boy. Have we done a single NFT story that you would consider to be positive?
No.
And the trend is not going to change today. Let me tell you that. Now, would you pronounce that Romeo? Or Romeo. I think it's Romeo, right?
I think it is Romeo.
Alfa Romeo. They're an Italian, sports car brand, but they don't sell a ton of cars, and I guess they think this is going to change that.
CoinDesk, you look at that. Look at all those red numbers across the top.
Oh yeah, bad data.
Alfa Romeo is building NFTs into the latest hybrid car to record vehicle data. And you think, I'm having trouble parsing that thing because that's not what NFTs do. And then you keep reading and it's like, well, it's a blockchain of data, but...
But why is it a token? It makes no sense. Do you then sell your diagnostic data?
I think the person in this story didn't get it or something.
But this is CoinDesk.
I think that this is like you have one of these exclusive cars, and this is the history of everything that has happened with that car, and maybe that would be valuable to a future car owner. And in that sense, it's kind of non-fungible.
So they're going to sell it to them?
I don't know if you sell it separately, but that's the maintenance history of the car or the actual history of the car. So think about a blockchain that is, it gets a new token every 15 seconds, and it's the state of the car. So it's like, were you driving the car? Did you floor it? Were you going 160? Did you change the oil? All of those events on a blockchain, it would be hard to forge the history of the vehicle, which is maybe useful to future vehicle owners.
You know who else it's going to be useful to? It's going to be useful to them when they violate. They say, "Oh, you violated your lease because you didn't perform maintenance," and it's going to be useful to the insurance company when they deny you claims.
Yeah, even local. Like I can think of at least a couple of instances where people that I know have had cars that have had a design flaw, and it's like this is recalled or. They moved like the transmission warranty from 50,000 miles to 70,000 miles because the transmission was just terrible, and then the transmission dies at 72,000 miles, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, it's not under warranty," and it's like, "But it had that. It's defective. That's why." You,
Well, no matter how it goes,
crash in a dish, bro.
Yeah,
or a ditch.
No matter how it goes, I think we can all agree it will be anti-consumer.
It is very anti-consumer.
Another thing that seems to be just blindly anti-consumer and completely unwilling to accept it. This is some real cognitive dissonance going on here at the top levels of Ubisoft.
Ubisoft's latest Galaxy Brain move is to gift scammy NFTs to employees.
Now these employees, they had a little town hall, and a lot of the employees expressed their disdain for the movement into becoming what they call a gambling company. And so Ubisoft, their response to that, they thought about it and they said, well, let's just give them NFTs.
I imagine you're probably working long hours and stuff, working on these games and things, and then they just give you an NFT, and it's like, how about a pay bonus or literally anything that's not just company store money.
This is the hat. You don't get a real hat. You get an NFT of this hat.
How isn't someone not just taking a dump on the CEO's desk every morning?
It's so steamy.
And it's... They pointed out a great thing here where the announcement was, if you want the hat, you respond, and then they will place that in your already required Ubisoft crypto wallet as part of your employment. Think about that.
It's just company store money. We've done this before. Let's stop. We already see how the story ended.
The employees hate it, the users hate it, and it will continue. That's basically what they're telling us.
You know what? I keep going back to this, but you know what might be a cool NFT is the first person who's, I don't know, let's say they put NFTs in the new Halo game. It's the first person to get to some part of the Reach, or the first person to kill whatever boss, terrible. Or the first 100 people to do task X.
Yeah, but then
that's just Steam achievements. We've already got it.
What's gonna happen is you're gonna get either the Australians get them all. Or you deal with the North America gets a faster release date because NFTs, and then there's going to be lawsuits.
Yeah. We're just showing that, it's the first 100 people to get achievements. That would be kind of cool. That'd be just a cool marketing thing. Though, I guess they haven't done that because they can't just grift an insane amount of money from that.
I guess some people are achievement hunters. I've achievement hunted a little bit for Left 4 Dead, but I wouldn't care enough to try and get a game early to do that. It's more just this is fun to do with friends. Why would you?
This also isn't really a lot different from some of the trading that I did with remember Steam used to give out the Steam cards like crazy?
Yeah.
I never used any of those, but you could trade those for games. People would give you a game for cards.
I've amassed so many Steam cards.
I don't get the appeal, but I guess there's a market for that.
The problem is if you want to sell those now because of all the fraud, you got to like two-factor it, and then you have to agree to not trade for a certain amount of time after you put something up for sale. It's very annoying now. For 3 cents, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Well, here's a crazy question, because I read this article and I still don't know exactly what they're going to do. How exactly would you turn
They don't know what they're going to do either.
a cloud service into NFTs? They don't seem to have a good answer, but that it's not going to stop them.
Salesforce tells its employees it's working on an NFT cloud service. Now, this is, one of the largest companies, one of the Fortune largest companies in the world, and they're working on an NFT cloud service.
Why would anybody want a Salesforce NFT, you ask? I don't have an answer for that.
But because they're, one of the largest companies in the world, they feel like they need to be on this bandwagon.
They're on it. They're on it. Now, we have heard some insane valuations for NFTs, right? That's the FOMO.
Yeah.
Somebody gets in, they used to work at, Sonic, and they drew some stupid NFTs, and now they're a millionaire.
Right.
And you hear that story, and you think, I got to be
It's
a part of
heartwarming
this.
story.
But maybe the heartwarming part of that is false.
Traders are selling themselves their own NFTs to drive prices up. Many NFTs are engaging in wash trading, says a new report. Okay. Neat.
A lot of NFTs are also, I found this out recently. So I know DeviantArt, which is like a big art posting site, they actually have a thing now they had to implement because people were stealing art off the website and NFTing it. And so now they have like a thing that checks it when you upload it. It's like, is this, hey, we found this somewhere else. Is this yours? Because someone's making an NFT out of it now. And you can go file like a copyright claim.
Legally, can you stop that?
OpenSea has not been the best in terms of track record for taking those down.
DeviantArt will give you a tool to find it, but you have to take your own action against it. So, I mean, probably not.
You're going to get stonewalled so hard there.
Yeah. So it sucks for artists, too, because it's like people won't pay you a commission of like $50 for a piece of art, but they'll NFT it, regardless of whether they have your permission or not.
Ugh.
A fresh new world of hell for art.
Disgusting. Well, we talked about right to repair, and this is a little bit of a right to repair. Unfortunately, these people are getting screwed by the supply chain. I had to read 3 different stories before I actually read what caused this problem. We do know what caused this problem, but I will forgive you if you've never found it, because so many stories ignored it.
You are listening to KUOW. Like it or not, mysterious glitch has Mazda drivers stuck on public radio. Yeah, this was crossed out of the list, so I didn't bother.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's only because it was crossed out in nonsense.
Yeah.
Not in this. Yeah. So here's the secret. This radio station, for 4 days between end of January 1st to February, forgot to put file extensions on the images that go into the screen on your car. Mazda's infotainment system was just like, I'm done.
Nope.
I can't do this.
So what you're telling me is that hackers can take over cars and probably get to the drive-by-wire thing. That's the kind of thing that you see at DEF CON, and somebody at DEF CON has, turned the car into a murder machine with just having a wrongly named file on the network somewhere.
There's so many like horror stories that come out of there. It's like, I would not go anywhere near there with any kind of technology.
Did you know that if you have a file with specifically crafted contents on a network drive inside a radio station, that you could cause this specific VIN number of this specific Mazda to just burst into flames? Because that's coming to DEF CON.
So that's a 2014 through 2017 Mazda. If you have one of those and the infotainment system still works, dear God, do not go to a public radio station.
They're probably not going to issue a firmware update for this either.
There's part of me that's like, who still listens to radio? But I guess some people do.
You know what? I actually do listen to NPR in the truck because I don't have a lot of infotainment choices in the truck because there's some damage. And NPR drives me insane. NPR has become unlistenable, but I would still rather listen to that than commercials. So I listen to it and scream at it. It's somewhat cathartic.
You're already an angry driver. You probably shouldn't listen to anything.
My anger levels lately, some of the other stuff that I'm dealing with while driving, like I almost killed an old man yesterday. Like, there was a moment.
You're losing it.
Like I knew in my mind that his death meant more to me just for the briefest moment than everything that would come after it. And it was only the thought of what will happen to my cats that stopped me.
You should have been thinking, what about our viewers?
They would love that. What are you talking about? There would be a week-long celebration from all the lefties. Well, Jack Dorsey, he's out at Twitter, and he's desperate to stay in the news, so he's doing stuff with the blockchain again.
Jack Dorsey's Cash App integrates Bitcoin's Lightning Network. I wonder if this is part of the reason why they forced him out, because, Twitter taking crypto was a thing, and that would enrich Jack Dorsey if they did it that way.
Conflict of interest, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. But it's going to be no fee, instant, all that good stuff. I guess if you're into Bitcoin Cash, that's a good news for you. Although, we'll still get reported to the IRS.
Yes.
So watch out for that. $600.
Maybe even double reported. So it's like, wait, that doesn't... why am I getting that? I don't...
And, cryptocurrency, of course, we're seeing that when it comes to other payment services, you can never, ever trust them. They will just simply take your money if they don't like you for whatever reason.
They'll take your money and redirect it to another charity, or the feds will just take it.
We were talking about the Depression earlier. Obviously, the solution is to now start hiding money under mattresses like my grandmother did.
You're gonna hide your Bitcoin in the mattress?
You gotta, put it down in a jar and bury it in the backyard. And forget about it.
You could print it out, get a sheet printed that actually has the entire hash on it, and then sleep with that.
Oh man, I just realized that when we're in the old folks' home, if we make it that far, we're gonna be watching Antiques Roadshow, and there's gonna be a guy that's got like an old book or something, and he opens it up and it's just sheets of numbers, and he's like, I don't know, my grandfather always took good care of this. I don't know what it was about. And the guy's like, well, we looked, and there's $4.7 billion of Bitcoin from these numbers on this sheet of paper.
There's one guy, he's got an ancient computer. Oh, it would just be a modern computer now, but then it would be an ancient computer. And he's always just in his room, with his glasses all the way down his nose, and he's just like... And then one day he's a billionaire. Yeah. What happened to Steve? Oh, he's in Barbados. Anyway, Bitcoin is something that you might have to use if you have been banned from all of those other payment services. And if you are a thought on the internet showing nudes, you will get banned.
CNBC has the headline, Bitcoin has become a lifeline for sex workers like this former nurse who made $1.3 million last year. Probably also a truckload of other people.
This article, I read it and it sounded like, they had some interviews from some other sex workers who were like, yeah, this has happened to me. But this article mostly interviews this one woman who seems like she's promoting her own thing.
Well, I guess if you're in this business, you do have to promote constantly, right?
Well, she's not promoting like her nude specifically, but like her own website that will handle these kind of payments.
Now, here's what we were trying to figure out, Wendell, when you weren't here. Oh, so there she is, right? Allie Ray. But this is Allie Eve Knox. Is this just her persona?
Yeah, because there's another picture that's labeled like that, and she's got like a cat face.
Allie Ray again. Looks like the same girl. Allie Ray again. And then another with makeup, and now she's Allie Eve Knox. And then at the bottom of the article, out of nowhere,
there's another lady.
Totally different girl.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know what CNBC was thinking here.
It felt like a marketing piece a little bit to me, but
again, in the world we find ourselves in, where money is tracked down to like $600, you'd better have a reasonable explanation for why people are randomly sending you a whole bunch of money.
Patreon.com/
What value are you providing? It's like, oh.
Well, I got to say, GTA 5, we had some good times with it.
We did. It's still fun.
Ultimately, looking back at it, I feel like it was bad for the world.
Yeah. It's amazing that it makes as much money as it does, and it's so poorly engineered. It is perhaps even worse engineered than some of the bridges that have failed the...
And let's think back about, like, remember the guy who solved the load times?
Yeah, with the giant JSON parsing?
Personally, I don't think it's that much better since I've played it recently, but...
Really?
Yeah.
And all the times they went after the modders, remember that?
Yeah.
And then they went after the people who remastered the games and put out bad versions of the remasters.
They themselves put out versions that were worse than the remasters, which was the motivation for them going after the remasters.
So I hate to give any hype for that, but let's face it, we'll probably play it.
Rockstar confirms GTA 6 is in active production at last. with a potential catch.
Look at this freeze frame of Trump up here.
He's dancing. That's how he dances.
Yeah, so Rockstar is saying that, nah, it's not like we haven't figured everything out yet, but we've definitely started on it. Don't worry, it's coming. But we don't have a date. I think they said probably 2023, but no one's sure. Oh, release date of holiday 2023 may be being announced, but then that slips to 2024.
It's like Elder Scrolls 6 at this point. It's never happening. Anything else is just copium.
Oh, this is a brutal paywall.
Ooh.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Google Stadia, boy, they had a rough couple of years, didn't they?
They're still having a rough couple of years.
Yeah, people really didn't adopt that at all. So the question is, what do you do when they have a technology, it works, but no one wants it.
Google Stadia is in a talks to partnership with Peloton, Bungie, maybe some others. Peloton's also not in great shape. They just laid off 2,200 people.
Did you see, I don't know if did I add the story about how they all showed up? They forgot to ban them.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they had a public meeting to talk about the layoffs, and everybody that was laid off showed up to it.
Yeah.
Oops.
But yeah, I guess that would be sort of like content delivery straight to an exercise device while you're running.
Yeah.
You know what they got to do? I mean, this is easy money. Take games like Icarus and Valheim and DayZ and make the running the treadmill. Print money. And then send me some of it for giving you the idea.
There was another Peloton story that I thought you were going to reference. I don't think we had it in the news, that for the severance package for those people, they got a Peloton subscription.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One woman, she said, yeah, they gave me a bunch of merch, and I'm selling it to feed myself.
I read in the article, I saw that they also got cash, but it didn't say how much.
About $5.
Yeah, enough for some McDonald's.
$3 Peloton dollars.
Peloton NFTs.
It's an NFT of your employment at the company. Your record there.
Oh, well, that's better than what Apple gives you, right? Apple doesn't even give you that.
That's true. Yeah.
Is there a dark future where you can go to job for a company, but you can get bumped up into the next pay bracket if you pay for the NFT of your previous employment history?
It's like your college transcripts. You got to buy them. If you still owe money to the old company, it's like, oh no, you have a laptop. Until we get that back, we can't give you your NFT transcript.
Gosh, college transcripts on the blockchain.
That's happening. It's already, like you just made a prediction. That's gonna happen for jobs.
I love how easy it is to figure out what the next horrible NFT is gonna be.
Yeah, we're gonna have a story about that in like a month.
Well, one thing you don't want to hear right now is that there's more problems at chip factories. My God, we do not want to hear about that.
Western Digital says that contamination impacting production at Japanese facilities.
Did this article have any details when you read it?
It is multiple. There are several articles on this now. This is the Reuters article. This is many multiples of exabytes of flash. So flash storage memory produced by Western Digital. A lot of it is impacted, and they didn't notice right away. So this is in sort of the final stages of production, and they were like, oh, that's funny. So they've really had to go back to the drawing board on a lot of stuff. This is definitely going to have a global impact. You remember the flood in, I think it was Thailand, like 15 or 20 years ago, and hard drive prices were affected for like 3 years? This is larger scale than that.
Oh, good.
Great. I wonder if that'll affect inflation at all.
It's going to be the 1-2 punch of inflation plus reduced supply.
Moving on to social media, and you might be thinking, well, what does this story have to do with social media? Well, you got to remember that this young lady's troubles started, well, no, not her troubles started, but her troubles with the government destroying her life started when she made a post on their social media service. And everything has been retracted, she's been hidden, and she's now granted an interview. You could almost see the gun barrel in the interview, but she assures us that everything is fine.
The BBC reports Peng Shuai. I
don't know how to pronounce it.
Their Weibo post has sparked a huge misunderstanding. So she posted and said, hey, I've been having trouble with this government minister. Blah. It was
sexual assault.
It was a very personal post, but it's long. There's a lot of details. Just kind of it almost seemed like a missive, or maybe she was writing her own epilogue. And then she disappeared, and she is now saying, oh, it's a huge misunderstanding. And also, I don't know if I'm going to get to play tennis anymore because I'm very old. And it's just...
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So that happened at the Olympics, and there was a French reporter who got to do the interview, but he himself says, I don't think that she was free to speak during that interview.
Yeah.
Very nervous, I'm sure. That's sad.
Well, Texas froze again, but it was much more minor.
They had some power outages, but not to the scale we had last year.
Only about 70,000 people lost power. It's fine.
Drop in the bucket. Now, if you recall, last time that happened, Ted Cruz, who, supposedly has constituents there and cares for them, decided that instead of dealing with that, he was going to go to Cancun, where there was no blizzard.
What a stand-up guy.
And it was kind of a nice place to go. He caught a lot of flack for that. And now, as the situation repeated itself almost perfectly, he did not think very closely about what he should tweet. This was a very stupid tweet.
Ted Cruz tweets about rising Cancun flight costs ahead of another Texas winter storm.
People died last year, my dude. What are you doing?
How would he know what the cost of a Cancun flight is at that specific time?
Was he... I can't decide, when I saw this, I couldn't decide if he was trying to be sarcastic or if he was trying to take,
No.
a pointed jab at the inflation rates.
Yeah. You're right. He was trying to crap on the Democrats, obviously, because they've caused the inflation. And he did not take a moment to think that, I'm admitting that I'm about to run away again, essentially. The flight cost was up an amazing percent, 32%. That's crazy, right?
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, what are our lawmakers going to do?
I saw a lot of posts where people were like, I'm just leaving. I saw there's an ice storm coming, I'm just leaving. They didn't even want to guess that the grid had been fixed.
Well, that's clearly what he was doing, right?
Yeah. A lot of people, they just drove to another state, or they certainly prepared personally more, which is a good thing, but they shouldn't feel like they have to be that concerned about the grid.
Well, here's one that if this shocks you, then boy, do you have a lot of makeup work to do to educate yourself on the world. But it is good to know, I suppose.
TikTok shares your data more than any other social media app, and it's unclear where it goes, the study says. That's pretty much the article. Next.
Yeah, I don't use TikTok.
Obviously, the unspoken thing there is that China, going to China.
We're not really sure where it goes. All these Chinese IP addresses, I don't know where that is.
YouTube is number 2, but they are certain where the YouTube stuff goes. It goes to Google, and they use it for all the ways they manipulate you in the search engine.
It's listening right now. Don't believe me? Subaru. Lots of Subaru. You should check out Subaru. The algorithm will definitely not mistake the word Subaru.
Or Barbie Dreamhouse.
Or you can look up our old video, Barbie Dreamhouse, and enjoy the pollution that provides.
Yeah. All of your recommended. Ruined.
Well, we talked, was it last week or the week before, Diem, the ill-fated Facebook virtual currency, was shut down. It's gone.
Tragic.
Goodbye.
We predicted this last week.
Yeah, and everybody kind of saw this coming. I mean, what else were they going to do?
Meta has frozen Novi digital wallet project. And the project has left 100 employees of Facebook's Israel R&D Center facing an uncertain future. They're trying to find a home for them, but gosh darn it, it's just so hard. I heard that Amazon's hiring.
And the pay's up.
Yeah.
And here's a crazy new feature on Twitter. I got to say, I do love it when you add this to any kind of social media.
Yeah, I
think
like
it's
it.
Very, very important. I know that the powers that be don't like it because it can show the mismatch between the narrative and the reality, which is, of course, why YouTube got rid of it. And I wonder how long it will take Twitter to do the same thing.
Twitter downvote goes global, but will it be a good feature?
I mean, Twitter is kind of a cesspool of negativity, and I think this will probably make it worse, but I kind of want it. That's what you're on Twitter for. It's the cesspit of negativity, except for Wendell's posts, which are mostly just, check out my PC.
Yay.
Yay. Mine are mostly memes.
Void.
I hope that this gives the Twitter mobs just something to occupy themselves with, right? They could constantly be mobbing each other.
I must find the people that are wrong on the internet.
Yeah,
Downvote.
and click them.
I want to find a thing that's show me the most liked and the most downvoted post of all time on Twitter. once they
won't.
implement this.
They probably won't tell us that, right? They'll keep that pretty close together. Are they even going to show the count? I doubt they'll show the count.
They'll probably get rid of it eventually because Instagram did it too.
It'd be funny if people start embedding the tweets that announce YouTube videos on the YouTube videos, and that is used for the downvote counter for the. It's like YouTube Rewind 2022, and it's like, oh, it's the tweet with a lot of downvotes.
A lot of people when that first started, they would sticky a comment and it would be like, "This is the proxy. Upvote and downvote this comment." Well, this is another story that's played out during a time when we were in the dark. We didn't get to talk to you for a week, and it moved fast. But Meta made some threats, some things were thrown around, and then ultimately we came to this.
Meta is absolutely not threatening to leave Europe. What prompted this? Somebody from Meta said, well, if you're going to impose all these fines and stuff, we can't do business in Europe. We ought to leave.
This is from their official press room, so obviously they started to get a little cold feet on that statement.
This is about moving data from Europe to the United States, which
we
they do.
have to do that, they say.
Yeah, they always do it. They say it's good for everybody. It's a wonderful thing, and why would you ever argue against it? That's their response. They will continue to work with the European Union. And if you recall, one of the big early crises, I suppose, that happened in the metaverse was a virtual assault. It really wasn't an assault. It was just, people who were horrible trying to intimidate somebody else, I guess. I don't really understand what the motivation is for it. But they have said because of that, they will add this feature.
Meta introduces personal boundaries in Horizon worlds and venues to prevent harassment. So your 3 feet of personal space is enforced by algorithm. However, you can still agree to do gestures. You can fist bump and high five. And I would love to read this headline to somebody from 20 years ago.
How are they not going to do something like avoid this player?
Algorithmically enforced personal boundaries.
That could be weaponized, right? Can be used for, what Chris is saying.
Oh, the avoid this player. Well, so Overwatch has a thing where you can, I think it's up to 3 players, you can avoid them. I usually will do that if someone's feeding a lot or like they're yelling at your teammates. Like, I'll avoid this person, then I won't see him for like at least a week. They should do that in the metaverse.
I actually, I know how to use that feature on Meta, and it's a little bit outside the box. It's by not using Meta.
Yeah. Certainly that's the number one thing to do.
But I want to play.
If I'm just at home, not on Meta, I'm relatively confident I won't get groped against my will. And the metaverse is here to stay, even though it doesn't exist. We have those 2 items from Facebook. That's pretty much it from them, right?
Right.
And we have a handful of other weird things like Upland. Remember Upland? We talked about the real estate. And now Decentraland. I don't know what any of these things mean, but here they are. They exist.
Samsung held an event in the metaverse, and it did not go quite to plan. So it was building 373 or something like that. And some people got in, but a lot of people couldn't get in. CNN couldn't get in, or CNBC couldn't get in.
837, I don't know what that means.
Samsung 837X. Yeah.
So here they are. They were all lined up. This is the virtual building back here in the background. And there's this entrance here, and there was a lot of people there, but they could not get in the entrance.
Isn't the whole point of the metaverse to avoid this kind of nonsense?
One would think.
I guess if this happens with like World of Warcraft, it's like, I want to join the World of Warcraft this realm. And it's like, oh, your login wait time is 45 minutes. It's like, why is this a thing?
So this was CNBC. They said that they heard from the CNET journalist that they had to switch to the Athena server. No one knows what that is.
There's no obvious way to do that.
So CNBC ultimately just left after 30 minutes of not being able to get into the metaverse.
I just don't understand. Also, I like to imagine that they have like free chat on, so like the person's trying to give their presentation and people are just screaming over them.
Well, there's definitely
it's like a COD lobby.
Yeah, there was definitely a lobby chat because they quoted some of the people who were, a little bit upset about the fact that nothing was working.
You know what might be a better use of your time? Reading a book.
Literally anything?
Literally anything.
Learn a new skill.
Make a pie. That's exciting.
Dude, literally anything that's not this hell.
You could redeem some free credits and check out Linode.
Oh,
and the link
the
below.
Sponsor.
$100 if you've never signed up for Linode before.
I guarantee you'll learn more banging around on a Linode terminal than you ever will in the metaverse.
And we've done so many tutorial videos like setting up your own VPN and doing some security analysis with stuff. You should definitely check that out. Thanks, Linode. And we'll see you Friday with lots of nonsense.
Yep. Bye.